link on your Twitter and just click in and you'll be in the studio.
It's not me.
Okay.
So it's Iris.
Do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell her to go to the link and
all right, let me just.
she'll be in the studio.
Okay, let me do that. Right, shall we talk? Shall we do it?
I guess we should.
Well, good.
Hold on.
It's a good start. Okay. Okay, good afternoon. And welcome to Hollywood. So very exciting and weird. So, this is Speaker's Corner. This is a tradition in the UK. Unlike here, we don't have a right to free speech, and you're losing yours here in this country through hate speech laws which are coming. So what we've decided to do, because women face an existential crisis and the bodies of our children through the threat of transgender ideology, we thought we'd come to the very heart of where it's being sold to Americans. Through your schools, your children are being gaslit, coerced and manipulated. Through your doctors, through your very, very well-funded pharmaceutical industries. And so this is how we run it. You come and say what you want, because you're finding in your places of work you can no longer say that you don't want men in your spaces. You have to pretend that women have penises. You have to pretend that it's brave and stunning for girls in this country aged 12 to have double mastectomies. So, if you want to speak, you come and speak. Speak really nice and loudly into this microphone so everybody can hear you. Thank you everybody for coming out. I realise it's a really brave step to come and speak against this pernicious orthodoxy. So, who would like to be the first American? Come. I'm going to clip this on you as well, if that's okay.
That might be better because I have to hold this.
This one is that's for my stream, and this is for the others.
All right.
Really close.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I recently had a lovely dinner with some moms from my support group. As we were talking, someone mentioned when this whole trans thing blows over, something along the lines, will they think how this hurt us parents? I started thinking, in all this child-centered agenda of the push for acceptance of your child announcing their new gender identity, who's thinking about the parents? The government isn't thinking about the parents with their new push for gender-affirming care, also known as genital mutilation, double mastectomies, hormones for kids. Doesn't seem like caring to me, more like eugenics. My state of California doesn't care about the parents, as Governor Newsom passes SB 107 that makes us a gender sanctuary state. A cash cow for everyone with their hands in the cookie jar, poised to profit on the confused kids and their homophobic parents. The schools aren't caring when they secretly call your daughter or son by another name, gender, and pronoun behind your back. They do this hiding behind the laws of SB 1266 that gives them the rights to usurp your parental rights. They don't care about the love and care you put in choosing your child's name. The therapists don't care when you come to them for your child to seek care for their confusion and mental distress. They actually tell your child, you, the parent, are the problem because you won't affirm them in their delusion. The trans activists don't care. They tell your kid that you, the parent, are the toxic one, the transphobe and the bigot, because you believe in the reality of biological two sexes. The doctors don't care because they only see the dollar signs. The glitter moms don't care who buy into the lie. They think you should give up your child to the altar of the gender gods for body sacrifice. You know who's caring about the parents? I found out early on when I got snarled into the net with my daughter 1 year ago. I was totally new to Twitter. It was a gay man, Mr. Menno. He cared. He cared enough to send a tiny account of 6 followers a video of moms talking about their journey with trans phenomena. He told me to buckle up for the bumpy ride. Then it was a rad femme named Kara Dansky. She showed me she cared as a parent. Then little by little, more gender-critical people, ROG parents, gay men and women, showed me they cared. Then something happened in March of last year. I posted something about women's rights during Women's History Month. Posie Parker took notice. All of a sudden, overnight, I had 1,600 followers showing me they cared. Then a mom named Lynn last year, who lost her son and daughter to this cult, showed me she cared. She took the time to talk to me on the phone, and I was able to join her private parent group. Then I joined a private local parent group of parents like myself, a group of loving parents with ROGD kids. They showed me they cared as we sat under the old tree in the park, sharing our stories of tears and fears and our deep love for our kids. Now one of these moms I call friend, and a few more have come into my life from that group, have showed me they cared. A radical feminist lesbian, Joey Bright, showed me she cared. She's now my friend. Detransitioners showed me they cared. When Richie, the young British man who was rushed into gender surgery, told me, "Keep calling my daughter by her pet name," he showed me he cared. When a teen who used to think she was trans shared with me her story of how she thought she was trans and how she stopped, she showed me she cared. With so much caring, I'm still pondering the question, who will care for all of us parents who have lost our kids to the cult of ideology and gender identity? We will. We will band together. We will unite with gay people, women and men who are thinking critically, policymakers that hold the line in reality, speaking loudly with no one was born in the wrong body. The trans is a lie and it isn't real. We will pick up the broken pieces and patch them back together. Even though it wasn't like that, we will move forward, forever changed. We will recall we were on the right side of history. All the people shouting into the canyon, as they say, the echo chamber. The echo is being heard, one voice at a time, bouncing back at us, letting us know we're not alone. All those voices screaming, trans is a lie. That's who will care for us parents.
Thank you so much.
Tell us what to do. I'm here to listen and follow orders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It'll be lovely to see you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. It's all right. But thank you. Okay. Okay. So that was pretty much bang on the money as to why we're all here, because it's pretty crap going into a space that used to be for women only that is no longer. But there'll be a time that I can forget that really happens and move on. Now, if I've ruined my body, or if my child has, I don't know how if you ever really get to move past that harm. Okay, so who would like to talk next?
I'll talk next. Hey there. Take this off.
Thank you very much for wearing a jumpsuit.
Oh yes, this is what TERF need to be wearing, a jumpsuit. Okay, so I am Melissa Cohen. I'm a TERF from Los Angeles. I'm also a TERP. A TERP is a trans exclusionary regular person. So I don't exclude individuals, I exclude an ideology. So I wrote this for Speaker's Corner by proxy last January, but strangely enough, it still applies. Okay. Greetings from Hollywood, California, home of the U.S.A incident, the Netflix counter-protests, and the 4 Children's Hospital LA protests of 2021. I'm looking forward to the day when we have these all over and we don't have to wait for Kellie-Jay to come here and goose us into doing this. Today, I'd like to address an issue that I find particularly concerning: feminists using the fake, made-up language of transgenderism, and in particular, using the word woman to describe the worst type of man who wants to make women uncomfortable. On almost every episode of her podcast, Kellie-Jay asks us to do 2 things: be the billboard and stop using female language for men. Simple, right? A man in a dress is a man in a dress. She continually prods us, consistently modeling the ease and clarity of using plain language. On every podcast she does, Kellie-Jay makes herself perfectly clear to a global audience without using any fake, made-up, manipulative newspeak language. As she reiterated on her podcast just last week, this was in January, trans is not a thing. Trans woman is not a thing. I understand Kellie-Jay's frustration because I am deeply frustrated as well. Our strongest feminist leaders, including Kellie-Jay, Julia Long, Sheila Jeffries, Jennifer Billick, and Kara Dansky, continually remind us that it makes no sense to fight the cancer of transgenderism using the language created by the transgenderists themselves. Despite this, I'm continually hearing self-declared feminists, even women who go so far as to call themselves radical feminists, arguing for the continued usage of manipulative and confusing terminology. Even in spaces dedicated to discussing the issue, I am constantly hearing women bang on about reclaiming the word woman, while in the next breath giving it away by referring to horrible men as a type of woman. And if they don't actually refer to a man as a type of woman, they call him trans-identified, as if that term is any clearer and less confusing and emotionally manipulative. I personally call people who pretend that they are the opposite sex or no sex at all LARPers. LARP is a gaming term which means live action role play. I think it's not only apt, but very clear to anyone listening or reading what I am suggesting. If you don't like my term, there are many. Find your own. According to some feminists, however, using the term trans woman to describe a man is very, very different from calling him an actual woman. They argue that anyone at all would easily be able to see the vast difference between calling a man a woman and calling him a trans woman. So very different. I hear these feminists claim that it would confuse people too much to just call men men and women women, or to find some other term. They say that no one will understand what they are talking about if they don't use the word trans to describe these people. And on and on and on. When I challenge women about using obscurative language for LARPers, many argue with me vehemently and at length. They argue that I'm the one who is wrong on this issue, and that it makes perfect sense to refer to horrible men as a type of woman if you aren't actually calling them a woman. By referring to these men as this thing called a trans woman, they argue they are highlighting the fact that these men are in fact not actual women, making it completely clear to anyone how much not women these men actually are. Double speak, if you ask me. The feminists I am speaking of go about using this manipulative newspeak language of transgenderism to post and comment on feminist Facebook pages. They use it when they speak as panelists at WDI. They use it on Twitter. and in women-only discussion groups, I hear women call men a subset of women and use the language of transgenderism in the radical feminist women meetings of groups such as TERF Collective, where we are supposedly fomenting a feminist revolution. I will draw the line at calling these feminists actual trans activists, but they are essentially doing the work of trans activism when they employ this fake made-up language and deem men a subset of women, thus driving the very concepts of transgenderism ever more firmly into the way we think and talk about it. Language has power, and it has been said that he who controls language controls thought. Why are feminists allowing our language and thus our thoughts to be controlled by the thought leaders of the very movement we're fighting? I do not understand how in the world we as feminists expect the average citizen to understand that no man can be any kind of woman and that there's no such thing as trans anything if we ourselves use confusion, doublespeak, and continually reinforce that these fake, made-up concepts are concrete concepts that everybody understands and accepts. Do we think that we are going to get the word woman back for our exclusive use by willingly giving it away to a subset of men? Or stop this transgenderism cancer by reinforcing the concept of transgender or trans-identified? It's ridiculous, ludicrous, and maddening. Kellie-Jay is perhaps more of an optimist than I am, with her tagline, "I never lose." Because I myself doubt that we can win back exclusive use of the word woman when so many of us insist on continually granting use of our word to the worst group of men, just so long as they add a modifier. I personally don't think we can end the cancer of transgenderism when so many of us continually reinforce its false concept as if trans anything is a real thing. I fear for the success of this movement if we don't, at the very least, hold ourselves and each other to using clear, plain language, even just among ourselves. And to just say no to language that supports this cancer. I don't understand how any self-declared feminist or any woman would advocate for anything less. So thank you, Kellie-Jay, for holding the line on the usage of the word woman and the disuse of this so-called word trans, transgender, transsexual, trans whatever. It's just all fake, made up, and we don't and should not use it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody walking by or stopping and wondering why on earth we're talking about this, it's because in this country at age 12 or 13, if your daughter says she's a boy, they will give her a double mastectomy. And in Portland, Oregon, they'll do that at age 15 without your consent. They will change your child's name and pronouns at schools without even telling you. They are teaching the idea of biological sex is something inside your child's head and telling them that their gender is fixed and cannot be changed. So the way they behave is fixed and their bodies can be changed. And that's happening every single day. Within 10 miles of where we're talking today, there will be a little girl today having her prep for operation before she has a double mastectomy tomorrow. It is really serious, and it is happening because Big Pharma makes a lot of money from making medical patients for life. They will sterilize your children, they will take away their opportunity to have a fulfilling adult relationship, and they will do that when those children are 8 and 9 years old by starting puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. If you haven't talked to your school about what they're teaching your kids, now is the time. Now is the time to ask your school, what are you telling my children about gender identity? Are you telling my children that they can choose their biological sex? And I'm telling you, whether it's a religious conservative school or a state public school, they are telling your children that gender identity is an actual thing and they can choose their biological sex.
and they will take them down the runway of cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and sterilizing your kids before they've ever had an adult relationship. It's absolutely just unbelievable. And if you talk about it, you may lose your job. If you talk about it in the US, you may lose your job, you may lose your friends, you may lose any of your access to online spaces, because this country may pretend that it's got free speech, but it certainly has not. Right, this is the Speaker's Corner event. Anybody who would like to speak, please do so. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'd like to follow up with what's going on in our schools here.
Yeah, you can. Nice and loudly into that
Okay.
microphone.
Okay. I'd like to follow up with what's going on in our schools. I've been going to school boards, school board meetings in various states on both sides of this country. They're very quiet about this. One of the things they've done is gender identity discussion is not under health. So it doesn't have to be a health care specialist that teaches that, like they teach biology or the sex class that we all used to be familiar with about biology. It's under social studies. So parents do not hear about it because they don't have to be informed now, and they don't know what their kids are being taught. I've been trying to teach parents and tell people all across the country.
Transgender care for children? You have no idea what you're talking about. The medical science.
So,
You think you should sterilize kids?
Look, you all.
You think you
You're
should
all terrible.
sterilize kids and you think you have moral authority? How dare you? You're disgusting.
well, he certainly felt like he could interrupt me. So the other thing that's going on is they're teaching this under something called SEL, which is social emotional learning, and it's presented in this really nice way that they're trying to teach kids how to be kind and accepting of everyone. However, the only ones they speak of are the LGBT people. And I pointed this out in one of the 3 minutes that I got in front of a school board, that they don't talk about, they start off talking about it's important for marginalized kids or people, but they don't talk about, any marginalized anybody except for LGBT. So I mentioned that they left out a very large group of kids that get bullied every day, and those kids are kids with learning disabilities. And those kids are the kids that are most susceptible and vulnerable to this movement. And they take them and they put them in LGBT groups, and because as soon as they're having social issues, this is the answer. And along with this social emotional learning, which of course does have some positives to it if they were actually doing what they said. The other problem I have with it, though, is that teachers are not therapists. They have no training in this. They need to teach the courses that they're supposed to teach, and someone else should be their therapist, although I don't trust therapists currently in this city anyway. I am a therapist, and I am disgusted with my profession and even a lot of my training. So the other thing that they do that people don't know about that goes along with SEL is something called DESA. Do any of you know what DESA is? It's capital D, capital E, capital S, capital S, capital A. You can Google it, DESA. They test kids in schools on their social emotional learning. And they do not share this information with parents. Parents don't know, they are unaware, and if they find out and ask, the teacher will just not give you the information. They make check boxes on our kids, saying how well that they are, taking in all the indoctrination is what I would term it as. So I just want people to know there's so much more going on here than you could possibly imagine. And any people that I discuss this with, they say it's not true. They don't believe me. And, I tell them, yeah, I get it. This is hard to believe because it's fucking absurd.
Thank you very much. If you're walking past and wondering what on earth we're doing, we're basically saying we would like this country to stop giving 12 and 13-year-old girls double mastectomies.
Thank you. Well, it'll be somewhere. I have no
Stop
idea.
sterilising kids on the basis that they say that they feel they don't fit into their body or that body isn't right for them. We would like to see the hospitals, which are just a walking distance from here, to stop giving double mastectomies to young girls who say they're boys, and to stop sterilising children at the cult of transgender ideology.
Hi there, my name is I need to use that thing. Another lavalier.
Sorry.
No, yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Dario. I came up from San Diego, which is a bit of a red part of California. What I liked about what Posie said earlier was that, they're giving 12-year-old kids hormones, or rather that if they think they're a boy, then they can become a boy. When I was 12, my grandmother said, Susie, you should have been a boy. Because I was a tomboy. I liked trucks, and I liked climbing trees, and just, I didn't play a lot with dolls. And it's funny because, I'm not a boy, obviously, and I really didn't want to be a boy. What I wanted were all of the privileges and the cool stuff that boys did, because frankly the women in my life, though they were somehow emancipated as they could be for not being politically active, they were still had these kind of lives that I wasn't really appreciating, although I appreciate it now. And so it was more for me, and I would think it's the same thing now if there weren't all this ideology sort of telling you, well, yeah, you can be a boy, become a boy. I think it's the same thing. I think young people are going through the same kinds of turmoil and troubles. Perhaps, I'll admit that I think it's probably a little more insane now than it was in the 1970s. There's a lot more discontent, a lot more drugs on the market. And so, I could have been a boy. I could be a boy here now, standing, if this was going on in 1970. The other thing I wanted to say was a little bit more on the big politics side of things. I vote here in California. I also vote in Italy. We have a primary coming up, and I typically vote Democrat, not because I'm a Democrat, only as a defense, only to make sure that the Republicans don't get into office. Well, we had a ballot come to me a couple of months ago, and there were a lot of candidates on it, and I could actually write candidates in, and on every single one of them, I wrote in, I didn't even read the ballot, I wrote in a man or a woman who supports women's sex-based rights. This primary, we're voting for governor here, I'm voting for, we're voting for senators. I am not going to vote Democrat, and I am not going to vote Republican either. I am going to vote. I am a conscious abstainer. And I think this is a new political class. I know it is in Italy, this past election in which Italians voted. It was in Italy the lowest turnout ever in Italian elections. And some of the analyses suggested that there was a new voting class of people who abstained. They voted, but they did not vote for any of the parties that were available, and they have quite a lot of parties. The sentiment is, and I know this is also true in the UK, is that the left is failing. The people, the ideas, the goals, the sense of I don't want to say morality, but just the left is really just not stepping up to the plate. And the gender ideology stuff or better said, the ignoring women's sex-based rights on the left is just unacceptable, and I am not going to support it. And I have been pleading and also writing my senators and my state legislator, Tony Atkins, I'll mention her because she is a lesbian, actually, as I am, and no word. Don't want to hear anything about it because they're all captured by it, like the governor is as well. So that's all I wanted to say. I also wanted to thank Kellie-Jay for coming here because she is absolutely right. This is where, unfortunately, for better or worse, this is the empire, and this is where everything good and bad, mostly bad in my opinion, originates. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh yeah, well done. I forgot about that every time. Okay, you ready? We're ready for you. If you take that, my love. Okay. Tell everyone exactly who you are, because I know they're going to love you. Wow, go away.
We love gay kids too. We love all kids.
I'm going to make...
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amy Ichikawa. My message is a little bit different. Well, not too different, but I'm here to give women in prison a voice, because that's what I've dedicated most of my time to. Give me just a second.
It has to be closer.
This closer? Okay. Pardon me. So, I don't think of myself as marginalized or oppressed. I don't associate with victimization words. So what I'm faced with now are challenges. Challenges not only for myself, but for the women inside. And these are, I've never spoken about this personally, so this is kind of a big deal. In 2009, I was arrested for kidnapping and several other felonies. This was during the height of the LA County Jail illegal strip search scandal that resulted in a $53 million settlement for highly invasive cavity searches. There were 95,000 plaintiffs. The courts awarded counsel 25% of the total amount, which is only $13.25 million. $3 million went to nonprofits and for-profit organizations to create gender-responsive policies for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Lead plaintiffs got $10,000. A third of the plaintiffs got payment, but nobody else did. I didn't get anything. None of the women that I was in jail fighting my case with got anything. But this is what would happen. So I was in high power because my father just was an active duty sheriff, so I had to be segregated. So I would have to be strip searched when I would come out of high power, strip searched before I went to court, strip searched when I went to court, and then when I came back from court, myself as well as between 50 and 100 other women would get off of a bus. We would be in a cage that's made out of chain link with no privacy, so there's no dignity, and we would line up on both sides of the cage. We would be asked to strip. In front of us, there would be 3 trash cans. If you were menstruating and you were so lucky to get a tampon, you would have to take it out while nude, put it in a trash can in front of you, and walk back to your place in line next to your clothing. Then you would have to stick your fingers in both sides of your mouth to pull your teeth away from your inside of your cheeks to make sure you didn't have any contraband. Then you would be asked to squat and cough 3 times as sheriffs were walking around you. And mind you, this is not indoors, this is outdoors in a chain linked cage. Then you would be asked to bend over and open your cheeks. Then you would be asked to bend over again and spread your lips. Then you would be able to get dressed, unless they thought maybe you had something. And 9 times out of 10, they were going to find something. So you would be asked to squat and cough again and again. Then, being that I was in high power, I would have to go back to the pod and strip out again. So this is where female erasure is starting. This is how female erasure is going to look if it's not stopped on the inside by us. This is what it feels like to have absolutely no rights and to be completely invisible. So this is what I'm faced with. helping me, myself, and other women understand that after enduring that, we do have societal value, that we do matter, and that we're not worthless. Because after going through that, your whole sense of self-worth or even respecting your body is not really there anymore, because you don't feel like a human being, because it is the most dehumanizing thing that I can think of. This is all in conjunction with being housed with rapists, other violent sex offenders, many of whom have long histories of violence against women. So these are what the challenges that we're faced with right now. And what I need is to educate myself and my people about gaslighting, DARVO, how to recover from narcissistic abuse. Once we're able to give these things a name and identify them, it makes the monster easier to fight. Once you know that it's a thing and it's not just because you're worthless or a horrible person, it helps you start the recovery process. And I need people to help them understand that no matter what you've been convicted of or what you're serving your time for, no human being should have to be subjected to this kind of treatment, that wasn't okay and it's not okay and it will never be okay. I need them to know that they still matter, regardless of what they've done, regardless of the fact that they're serving sentences, life without the possibility of parole. There's no reason why any person should be subjected to this. So that's my story of female erasure. And let me just tell you really quick my connection with Kellie-Jay Keen. As the new laws and gender self-ID practices started coming into play, I started getting an overwhelming amount of letters from inside, calls, messages, just emergency contact, stating that I'm scared. What do I do? Amy, there's a rapist in my room. What am I supposed to do? And I didn't know where to go. None of the other organizations in the industry would talk to me about it. I was ostracized from my own community, and I somehow stumbled across Standing for Women, and Kellie-Jay immediately got me on her podcast and immediately connected me to Wolf, and immediately reached down to pull me and my people up from a very, very dark place. She breathed life where there wasn't. We didn't think there was any. So, again, my name's Amy Chikella. I'm the founder of Woman to Woman. We advocate for incarcerated women inside. There's 3 of us now. We also do parole board preparation and commutation consultations. We give women rights home that don't have a right home, and we offer peer support, and we just try and make sure they understand that, again, that they matter. So if you'd like to learn more about the organization, please check it out at www.womaniiwoman.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do that. Can I just, it's a very blessed day, the day that Amy messaged me, talking about the rights of women in prison not to be housed with male rapists, which happens in every women's prison in the United States of America. They're handing out condoms in women's prisons in this country because there are so many men in with women locked in their cells for 23 hours a day. And that would be bad enough. But because of that, because of this lie that men can be women, we're also saying that girls can be boys. So there are girls in this country, aged 12 years old, who will have their breasts removed because they think they're boys. They'll be sterilized because they think they're the opposite sex. If you don't know what's going on in your school, it means you haven't asked the right questions. You need to be asking, what are they teaching my children? Are they telling my children that they can choose their biological sex? That's why we're standing here today. That's why women are speaking out, because in their workplaces, in their friendship groups and online, we can no longer speak. Okay, who would like to speak next? Would you like to speak? Yeah? Okay. Can I pin this on you as well? Don't run off with it.
Hi everyone. So my name is Jairo. I'm an activist. So last year I helped organize the U.S.A protest at the U.S.A. Yeah, thank you. So I became a target by Antifa because of it. I was beat up outside of the U.S.A by a group of Antifa, and there's still a police investigation going on about that. So I've been targeted by them for over a year now because of that. And I support women's rights. I do not support men who say that they're women, and just because they say that they're women, that does not mean that they're women. And they have been allowed to go inside women's places. I went undercover to one place and I saw some things that I was very shocked about what they were doing. They were pushing for you to get gender surgery. They were going to pay for it. And then that is why I did the U.S.A protest, is after I went undercover. So I'm here. I think God sent me here because I did not plan to be here. I was just walking by and I saw you guys. So yeah, so I support you guys and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, how lovely to meet you. Well done. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm just going to put this back on. You'd like to speak? If you hold this for me, I'm going to just put this back on. Sure. All right, thank you. And I'm going to then pin it on you. It's like a needle in a haystack type. All right, I'm going to pin this a little bit further away because I keep going too close, okay?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I'll try to be brief. Thank you very much, Kelly, for being here. This is amazing, and I'm trying to recover from what I just heard. Anyway, so I'm fairly new to this whole issue. I formerly on the left, I campaigned for Bernie Sanders for twice, and I didn't realize, even though I'm very familiar with regulatory capture and the problem of regulatory capture in this country and in other countries, I was not aware of this until about a year ago, and until I found Kellie-Jay's trigonometry interviews, and then found my way to actually began with J.K. Rowling when I saw what was happening on Twitter to her, and then Colin Wright wrote an article, and I started reading, and I've been horrified by what I'm learning, and I'm trying to alert other people I know who are also all on the left about what's happening, and getting a lot of blowback, a lot of resistance to this, because they're in their silo. We are all in, whether we like it or not, in our information silos, and this is, I think, the biggest problem. And so what we have to continue to do is to keep spreading the word, sharing information, getting people that are on the left, in the center, on the right, to understand all the issues connected to this, and how this is basically misogynistic, homophobic, and it needs to stop. And we need to do everything that we can to get this to stop. Let's go back to having sane conversations somewhat about women's rights, human rights, LGBT rights, I mean, everything. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take that.
Okay.
It's really interesting. If you watch the people there's some people that walk by. So for us standing here, the people most likely to scorn, to sneer, to give a horrible look, are young white people. Yeah. That's who's walking past and thinking, how on earth? Because they don't understand genuinely what oppression is, and so they've invented this new one so they can feel it. So it's, generally speaking, it's white people, the age of about 18 to 25, who are the most likely to give us all a bit of a funny look about what on earth are they doing standing here. other people already know. So it's not something I would normally comment on, but it's just so overt. It's just so overt. So whilst you're standing here looking, have a look at who is looking and giving us funny looks. And it's just one demographic every single time. But let me just tell you, people walking past, if your child goes to school age 8 and tells the teacher that they think they're a different biological sex, the teacher will change their pronouns and name without even telling you. That's happening in American schools. They will cut the breasts off a 12 and 13-year-old girl who calls herself a boy after only just a couple of sessions of therapy. And they will be affirmed. Everybody will affirm your child. And even when you know it's absolute nonsense that your child is not trans, that there's no such thing as a trans child, everybody else in your child's life will affirm, and you will become the monster in your child's life as they slowly take your child away from you into this insidious cult. Did you want to speak?
Can I say something? It's not against this.
You can say something. Do you want to say it on the microphone? Do you mind?
This is what I'm going to say. I don't care if you're left, you're right, you're center. We need 3 things to happen in American politics. Number 1, term limits on Congress and Senate. Hold your goddamn vote until you get this. The left and the right can both agree on this. Everything that we talk about here, it really doesn't matter in the consensus of things. If we look at the Supreme Court, we have people on both sides, the right and the left, that have been there for too long. We can't keep appointing people that we say are going to change our lives, on the left and on the right. I want you to think about this. We say we're better than China. We say we're better than every other country, but China is ran by one political party. So until you have differences on both sides, it's a mic drop, because we don't have the choices that we think we do have. We have the illusory choice. Once you realize this is not a democracy and a republic, and this is Rome 3.0, you're not going to get the changes you want to see. You see this last name? Senator Langford. James Langford of Oklahoma is my cousin. Me and him disagree on multiple things. But I will say this, it does not matter what position you hold, be transitioning or transitioning. I'm part of the queer community. But I also understand one simple thing that none of the other Americans will look at and none of you will speak upon. You want to talk about your changes you want to bring. I'm physically conservative on money, but I'm very left-leaning on rights. But at the same time, we cannot talk about women's rights. We cannot talk about male rights. We cannot talk about gay rights. We cannot talk about transgender rights. We cannot talk about any right until we put term limits on Congress and the Senate. Until these people give you what you want, you have to hold your vote. Hold your vote. Do not vote for somebody that is going to the office that you want, and they do not get the political action you require. I am not saying change the political party on a spectrum. What I'm telling you is to change it completely. Change the system from the ground up. You vote for Nancy Pelosi and Ted Cruz, it does not matter. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. People have been in office for way too long. It's time for blood. I don't care if you're 80 years old or 100 years old. I don't care if you're 20. I don't care if you're 30. You have too many term limits going on. We put term limits on Congress and the Senate. We need to do it just like this. That's how you're going to make the change. If you've been in office and you've been there since you were 20 and now you're 60, that makes no sense. You're out of touch with American society. So the rights that you want to change will not change until you put term limits on every political office. That is all I have to say.
Thank you so very much.
Well, that seems to make sense, although we have live peers in the UK, so who am I?
We'll just do that for you. There you go.
Thank you. I only learned about this madness just over a year ago. I was just looking to date, and then I know, it's laughable. And I went on to lesbian dating sites and started looking into it and realized they were full of men. So that was very disappointing. And then, you know, I just went down that rabbit hole, and it's fetid and awful. But I've learned a lot. And I think I find it really upsetting when I do try to share with friends, and I should say I have been a lifelong progressive. And I would like to know right now, where are all those progressives who, you know, get all estrogen-y in their eyes about the T and the Q, but don't seem to give a damn that the L, G, and B are just being, well, treated very poorly. So I have a real problem with that. I also have a problem with the fact that I would have been one of those kids had I been born decades later. That scares the hell out of me. It really does. The other thing is the authoritarianism, the no debate, anger, shutting people down, taking away livelihoods. That is unacceptable in liberal democracy. That is not what we're about. And this is happening internationally, and it is appalling. So I just also want to say, I came out in the late 70s, early 80s. I was a part of our movement. I fought for my rights. And, and that's just because I'm old. I can say that. But having been a part of that actual civil rights movement, and no, Joe Biden, this is not the biggest civil rights movement of the century. He's absurd for saying that. I don't know, we did it very differently. We were nice, we got to know our coworkers. We formed meaningful relationships with people. We held fabulous cocktail and dinner parties. We were nice. We didn't threaten. There were no rape or death threats flying around from the gay community. And I just think that in this current climate, we all have to speak out. I'm not comfortable speaking out, but I am devoting the rest of my life to speaking out on this issue and stopping the double mastectomies and horrid surgeries on children. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak? Thank you. Oh, thank you, my love. Thank you so much. Well, hi. Let me pin this. Nice to meet you too. I'm going to pin that. Oh, sorry, that was the microphone.
I almost sleep like a dream. Hello, everyone. My name's Gay Chapman. I'm a Los Angeles area TERF. And I'd like to say that ground zero is no child is born in the wrong body. No child is born in the wrong body. It's an impossibility, and it's just a horrible that even this thought comes up. And I know you and I would probably be, if we were younger, we would be the first ones being put on, and I like to think my parents had enough stamina to not put up with the bollocks, but I don't know that they would. Because they're picking out kids that stand out, the oddballs, the girls that want to do things that are assigned to boys, supposedly, and the boys that want to wear pink, sparkly dresses. All of a sudden, it makes them want to be the opposite sex, which is absolutely absurd. So, moving on from there, I'm also a parent, and I see how the school likes to insert pronoun use and identity into all sorts of lessons where you wouldn't expect it. And I wouldn't have, except that I saw my kids' papers, and I'm like, what the heck? So they're sliding in gender identity ideology here and there, wherever they can put it, and normalizing that with students. And I want to say, I think it's just insidious that schools would take part in letting and encouraging children to have secrets from their parents, because isn't that like the first rule of safeguarding, is that, we have openness and honesty, and parents are being treated like child abusers, when I think it's the school and the teachers that are pushing this on kids, and they're saying the kids decided. No, they didn't. They didn't have this stuff when we were kids. This is new. And anybody that thinks that this is something old, this is being pushed by big pharma, and people are on board because it's the cool thing to say and do, and it's not. I mourn the loss of our women-only events and our lesbian events. The dating apps are full of men. I got reported at work for hate speech for my pinned tweet on Twitter because apparently stating the fact that men can't be lesbians and their girlfriends aren't lesbians either is hate speech. So there's a little nutshell of what's been happening in the last couple of years here. Finally, I'd like to say, well, one more little thing. A lesbian was kicked off of a summit based around Ann Lister because she made fun of pronouns. And it's an absolute outrage, and all of us expressed our outrage, got blocked by this group as well. So lesbians, Ann Lister was a very 19th century butch lesbian that Gentleman Jack was based on. And it doesn't come across quite as much in the film, but she was a butch lesbian. And she would have been a massive TERF because she only loved women, and she said so. And she knew what a man was and what a woman was. So I think I can posthumously TERF her. Because I'm sick and tired of people posthumously transing lesbians. Women who stood out. Joan of Arc. Come on already. Stop doing that. One last thing. For the most part, I keep my business, my job, my family, and my activism in their own little compartments for the most part because it helps a little bit with my sanity. However, I vow to you sisters out there that I will keep after Ellen by lesbians and for lesbians and by women as long as I own it. And that's all I gotta say. I'm done.
Very, very much. Thank you, my love. I'll take that from you. Okay. So for you people walking past, just to remind you, the reason we're here today is because 12 and 13-year-old girls in a hospital just a walk away can have their breasts removed if they say they're boys. That same hospital will sterilise your children before they've had an adult relationship when they cannot possibly consent. Schools in this district will teach your children that biological sex is a choice. They will have boys in your girls' changing rooms and sports. They will have men in women's spaces. Women's rights in the United States in 2022 no longer exist because they all include men. So, next. Who else? Yes. And then you. Okay. And then you. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm one of those dreaded public school teachers. I teach 6th grade. And last year, at the beginning of the year, a little girl said to me her pronouns were he and him, and I told her I could not honor that because as a science teacher, I had an obligation to speak the truth. Not just to her, but to the rest of the class as well. And you know what? She took it really well and we got along great. But at the end of the year, I heard Kelly's voice in my ear saying, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? And I thought to myself, well, I guess I'm the only one going to have a little heart-to-heart with her. And so I did. I pulled her aside and I had a heart-to-heart with her. And I said, very lovingly, as an older woman is supposed to with young girls, we're supposed to help them through that hard time. And I said, you know, your body is beautiful and it's healthy and there's nothing wrong with it. And learn about your girl body before you seek to change it. Yeah. Well, she got a little bit offended and she went to another teacher. Well, you would have thought I hit her in the head because it wasn't 24 hours before I was hauled into the principal's office. And the principal, to her credit, she's a lovely woman and she is 100% on my side. But she said, well, why don't you call the mother and see if, you know, she's mad. And so I called the mother, and the mother was 100% on my side, and not only on my side, but grateful that I had that talk with her daughter, because she was getting concerned that this cult would not let her child out. And I said, I see things going that way. You know, other people are more interested in it than she herself. Well, the 2 teachers that that this little girl had told this to, not only went to my boss, they went to the district office, and they sought to have me fired. But luckily, I had a principal that was willing to stand by me, and she did. And so I was not fired. But what I learned from that day was that, number one, I cannot pull children aside, and number two, I cannot talk to the parents. So me being me, I thought, well, what does that leave me? That leaves me my classroom, and that leaves me the truth in my classroom, out in the open, in the bright sunshine of day. And so I teach my children and my students and the students in my care that sex is binary, that there are two sexes, and that you cannot change your sex, and that if you seek to try, it is filled with thought and pain. And these procedures are not nothing. They're something. We're heading these children into just horrific medicalization that I cannot imagine, and it breaks my heart every day. So I just wanted to say thank you, Kellie-Jay, for giving me the courage to say, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And I told the mother, and she was on my side, and I told her, listen, I'm the last teacher that you'll probably hear this from. And she said, she said she felt sorry for the teacher that tried to encourage her daughter's transition. She said, because she is not on board. So I feel good that that little girl is in safe hands. And here we go, you know, strap on your seatbelt, because it's not going to be easy. And does anybody else find it ironic that we're standing on Tony Curtis when he did that? I just find that must have been like interesting.
I've been turning in a store. I just want to say, what was really interesting flying over is, would you believe it, I sat down and a lady sat down and I had diamante adult human female in my jumpsuit, and this woman said, I have to drink quite a lot to get on a plane because I hate flying, and so I was a little bit tipsy, and I said something and she said, oh, that's okay, I have a trans daughter. So of all the people I could sit with, it was a woman, no, wait. So she said that she was really happy, and she stumbled over the word she, and she's a really lovely woman, and I just said to her, are you okay? And she said it's the first time in a year and a half that anyone's bothered asking, are you okay? Because everybody else has gone, how courageous, how brave, how wonderful. But she knows her son. She knows that this is just a last in a long line of things that he's tried to find to escape whatever it is that he's experiencing and cannot accept. So he's now 20, he decided that he was trans at 28. But at 25 it was something else, at 23 it was something else, at school he was bullied and ostracised. And so she knows that this is not right for her son, but she feels compelled, she feels that she has to go along with it, because not one person once just stopped and said, it is an emergency. I mean, for British people, let me just say, that ambulance literally had branding on it. Like, I don't know if you Americans notice, but we just have NHS, right? Now, say what you want about it, but it's ours. It belongs to the people. There's nobody making an obscene amount of money out of giving girls double mastectomies in the UK. There's no one making absolute fortunes by giving puberty blockers and creating lifelong medical patients. I mean, they might be getting something because it's happening, but it's not like branding on the side of an ambulance. We don't have billboards that basically say, come here and we will treat you if you've had an accident. If you've had an accident. Like, for us in the UK to see those billboards everywhere, it's really insane. So, like come here and we will treat you. Like, we've got an ER department, as you call it here. That is nuts. Because in the UK we take it for granted that if you're ill, you will be seen and you won't lose your house. So it's very weird. Anyway, we're here because 12-year-old girls in this country can have double mastectomies if they think they're boys. The state can take your kids away if you don't affirm that they are the opposite sex to what they actually are. And at schools, will change your child's name and pronouns without even telling you. That's why we're here. Who is next? Yes. Hi. I've met you before, right?
Washington, yeah.
Oh, hi. How are
Hi,
you?
Nick, can I give you a hug? Good to see you again. Hi, hello. Oh, yes, hi. I'm Juliana. Hi, I'm Juliana. It is lovely to be here. I'm so glad and honored, Kelly, that you came to Los Angeles. First, on your world tour. Thanks for coming to see us. We appreciate it. I just want to get up here and say that we had a young man come up a few speakers ago who seemed to want to educate us about the political system. Yeah, we can vote all we'd like, but there are very large names that are controlling a lot of things. And it didn't take me long when I started looking into the insidiousness that is this gender ideology to find out who these people were. If you could, everyone listening at home, people here, if you've not looked up these names, look up Judith Butler, Martine Rothblatt, Gabrielle Metzneff. He is a pedophile who's been on the run for almost 2 years now. He's wrote books in the 70s about it. He just outed himself. It's insane. Who else? Let's see here. Jack Lang is another one. Look that name up. Oh, I'm sure there are more that I'm not remembering. But John Stryker, thank you. John Stryker, the Arcus Foundation, Pritzkers, Scott Wiener, here in California. He is drafting insane bills. That man, thank you. That man needs to be stopped. Look these people up. Gather in your communities. I am part of a legislation group. Look, if you're in California here, talk to me after this. Let's talk, because it needs to be stopped, and I want to do everything I can. We cannot do this to children or to lesbians. I'm a lesbian, and this is awful. I don't know where to go anymore, except for, thank God I found these women right here. And I will find other places. Gay Chapman is going to keep, after Ellen, a lesbian-only space, and I thank her for that, and I think we need to make more lesbian-only spaces and actually define what a woman is in order for you to come into that space. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you know, ever since that trans activist stole it, I keep losing my microphone. This lady, would you like to be next? Yes. If you hold that, I'm going to pin it on you if that's okay. I'm going to try not to go to, there you go.
All right. Hi, my name is Yvette. I'm here from New Mexico. Flew in this morning. And I have a beautiful little 10-year-old grandson who's autistic, developmentally delayed. He has cognitive delays, and he thinks he's a girl because he likes girls' clothing. And he didn't get this from school. He got this from home. And his sister and his parents love him so dearly and fiercely defend that he's a girl because he says he is. They made it clear anyone who does not affirm his girlhood will, just leave us alone and come back later. So I'm in this really tough place. He's gender non-conforming. I'm gender non-conforming. His father used to wear girls' clothes when he was a little boy. Why can't he just be a little boy that likes dresses? Right? I can't use pronouns with him. I will call him a sibling, not a sister. I will not call him she. I can't lie to him. Every single person who says, oh, Anara's sister, oh, you're such a pretty girl, they are lying. And children depend on adults to tell them the truth. And, I could...
Say no to pronouns. Just say no.
Yeah, I say no to those pronouns. So, we have to start telling the kids the truth. He's most likely to grow up to be a gay man. He's not on puberty blockers right now, but they're just waiting for him to say yes. And then if he starts down that road, he compartmentalizes so much. He will never mature. He will never be a grown man. If he wants to transition as an adult, that's fine. But not as a child. He doesn't even understand. He does not understand sex at all. He asked me on his 10th birthday where my husband was. And I said, I'm lesbian. I don't have a husband. And so he asked, how could I have children? And that was the first inkling he has ever shown me that he understands anything about sex. And so I just said I had one a long time ago. So thank you for listening. We got to protect these little kids.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming all this way.
Thanks.
Who was next? Yeah.
I don't remember. We met in Georgia.
Thank you.
I'm good. My name's Susan, and I was just telling Kelly we met in Georgia at the NCAA swim final. She came all the way out and got a lot of press and was interviewed by a lot of people, and now she's here. It's just so great that she's bringing some of that turf juice across to our big island. So I just want to say how I got involved in this. In about 2008, I became aware of that church right there, Scientology. And that was about when Tom Cruise jumped on the couch. And I was like, what is that? What is that group? Why are people kind of freaking out over it? And I got to know people, I protested, I got super involved. And the thing that really compelled me by learning about them is the psychology of belief and how you can get people to believe crazy stuff. And the parallels to what they believe in gender ideology are incredible. For instance, Scientologists believe that you are not your body. Your body is just a piece of meat. And what the essence of you really is a thetan. And this thetan is this metaphysical thing that you can't see or measure, but you can get in touch with it by spending tens of thousands or even millions of dollars on auditing there so that they can help you get in touch with this metaphysical thing in your body that tells you who you really are, not your body. You know, and then when you die, your meat body drops and your real you goes on to another body. And to me, that is exactly what gender identity is. It's some metaphysical, unseeable, unmeasurable thing that I think a person is perfectly fine to go ahead and believe, but you can't impose that on people. You can't instantiate that into law. People are free to believe whatever they want, but you can't impose that on other people. So some of the other parallels, though, are those guys are very scary if you cross them. They will follow you home. They will contact your employer if you piss them off. They will tell your neighbors you're an evil, awful person. And to me, if that doesn't sound like trans rights activists, I don't know what does. And that's why I think it's a trans cult. It's all of these ways that they manipulate people. It's like a script. You know, you scare people into shutting up. You demonize people who cross you. And you know, and the third thing is just that once you demonize people, like they call people suppressive persons, and the members, if somebody's designated a suppressive person, they can't talk to you. They will cross the street. They will see you as like a walking Nazi. And if that isn't like a turf, I don't know what is. And as soon as you demonize the other side, it shuts this door. They're completely shut off to listening to you after that. And I think it's intentional. It's intentional to give a word to these people that they want to silence, that they don't want their members to hear from, that they want to shut you off. So, but the fact that we're all here and that there's people from across the world and across the country and different demographics just shows that the tide is turning. People are going to be less and less afraid. They still have that bark and that bite that I think we're going to start to show them we have too. And I just want to say that there's a psychological phenomenon that's been studied that shows if you have a room of 100 people and 30 of them are really loud and obnoxious, that 30% can turn the tide of the whole room. Like you can take a vote and they'll all say, yes, black is white, or, you know, white is black, or whatever, depending on 30 people. So all we need is to overwhelm that little minority that's got a loud voice, a loud bite. They're willing to say and do anything, but I think this is showing that we're going to fight back and we're going to win.
Outline a mechanism to force something. Isn't that part of the problem?
What's that?
It sounds like you're outlining a mechanism and trying to force something.
No.
That's like the same problem as
No, you know, people can believe whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. Just don't force it on us. Don't make us believe it. Don't compel us to speak your words, think your thoughts, get inside of our heads and try to make us believe your nonsense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I take the microphone?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Who else would like to speak? Yes. Not yet. I'm going to pin this on your t-shirt like that, okay?
Hi, my name is Gigi LaRue, and I'm here as a parent, and I'm also here representing Our Duty. We staged a very successful rally at the American Academy of Pediatrics last weekend. We had 3,000 bags of materials that we handed out to pediatricians who would talk to us. We had people thanking us for keeping this conversation alive. I'm sorry I'm wearing a mask, but I have to stay anonymous because I have a kid in this. And she's probably a lesbian, and I want her to grow up intact. So I think the most important thing we can do as parents and people is keep talking. I know somebody already said that, but Our Duty put together materials, tools, facts. They're available on the website, and I think that's been the downfall of the people trying to bring this to the public sphere. The AG from Arkansas didn't know what she was talking about. Neither did Jon Stewart, by the way, but she didn't know what she was talking about. You guys have to educate yourselves. We have to know what the facts are. We have to know that there's no evidence to back up these treatments. We have to know that WPATH is a special interest group that got a peer review score of 0. These are not professionals, and the word is getting out. There are some hospitals that are starting to question using them as a paradigm, and that's very important. We have to be paying attention to people like Scott Wiener, who are passing laws that actively harm children from all over the country. It's not just California. So I urge you all to go. If you don't believe about the mastectomies, I can tell you a personal story. I became privy to a Google document. A trans man from San Diego is training physicians and psychologists to give surgery and hormone letters in 1-hour sessions. That means your child can get a letter in a 1-hour session and be eligible to get their breast removed. Now they need parental consent. I tested this, and I have 20 emails from psychologists saying that they would write my daughter a letter for top surgery after a phone call, after one Zoom meeting, after one session. How are you going to assess somebody in one session? I've been in therapy for 25 years, and there is still a bunch of shit that my therapist doesn't know about me. So it's very important to keep talking. That is the one thing to take away from today. Talk to everybody. Even if you get resistance, ask questions. Curiosity is going to save us from this. Not lecturing, asking questions. Ask people what they really think, because most people haven't thought about it. And honestly, until it happens to your kid, why would you? But once you're in it, you can't look away. So please don't look away. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much. Very brave. You have to wait because there's people been here for a long time. Would you like to speak? Okay, you can speak, but just these people have been here a long time. Thanks.
Hi there. My name is Roger. I'm a father of a student athlete, a daughter in one of the affluent beach cities. And as many of you know, this stuff is absolutely siloed in those kind of communities. They are all in on gender ideology. Recently, the last few weeks, this sign went up at the entrance to the girls, air quotes, girls' locker room. If you identify as a female, please use this locker room.
Can't identify as a female.
I kind of want to unpack what they're saying, what the school board is saying to the girls. Well, first of all, they're saying this is no longer a female space. This is not a single-sex space. This is a mixed-sex space. And they're telling the girls, you now have a job. This is not a job your mother had, because she had the right to a single-sex space. It's not a job that your grandmother had. It's not a job that was assigned to the adult women who run the schools, because they enjoyed single-sex spaces. Your job, my daughter's job and her peers, is to affirm males who come into that space. Because the gender-confused males could be accommodated, and first of all, they're being confused by the adults in the system, but they could be accommodated in a third space. But that wouldn't affirm them. And who are the affirmers? The girls. It's their job to affirm them. So they've all basically been made unpaid therapists. And it's a locker room, so really they're being made unpaid strippers, because they have to affirm them by carrying on, pretending that there's not a male in their presence. If they cover up, if they leave the room, is that going to be a microaggression? Probably. And just one more thing that's going on in that school. Everything that is available to the kids in terms of information on where to go, it's all right down the line affirming stuff. You're confused? Here, go to P-Flag. Go to the Trevor Project. You know, there's a growing body of literature about detransitioning. There's sources online, but none of that is directed to the kids. The kids are all directed 100% to affirmation. The school district pairs with seems to have around a lot of therapists who told me to my face, it's fine that girls flatten down their breasts all day long with blinders, which causes breathing problems, tissue damage, completely unhealthy. You would never, say that we could bind their feet like in old China. It's like, breast binding? Yeah, go for it. So that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. It's sad. We need to put a stop to it. So in the election, vote for somebody else on the school board, vote for somebody else in your elected offices. Thanks.
Right, who's next? Come on.
Hi, I think this is really, really important. I was transitioning to female. I had encountered a lot of bullying, and I sort of ran into a situation where I was confronted with situations that, as far as the men, like the male role models I had, I was like required to fight, essentially. Say some of these fighting words or something. I was getting bullied a lot, and I was confronted with this feeling that I couldn't be like a man if I wasn't going to like fight these people for saying or doing things to me. And so I figured I started using my like sexuality, my idolization, or like my feminine ideals of like what I love in a woman or something to guide me as to how to like run my life at that time. But I realize now I was kind of out of order. Like the order of operations in mathematics, we have to kind of like, do things in a certain pattern, and if you don't prioritize right, you're going totally wrong. So like things are being killed, as far as I know, and this has been going on for thousands of years. And when you seize, one thing I realized was an epistemological problem to do with pharmaceuticals. I did some research and some experimentation with drugs and things, and kind of realized that I'm not sure that they have the strongest foundation for being able to like really give you the mind of a woman or something. Like that I can't know another man's mind, but I certainly can't know what it's like to think or to experience life as a woman. At least not absolutely. And so then I can't really like make the proper definition But then the same way that applies to animals, like when you think about a chicken or a pig or a cow, I don't think there's any possible logic that can give you the jurisdiction or the prerogative to make decisions for them, especially not when it involves death. So that kind of thing seems like that comes before, it supersedes all of the sexing. You know, I don't think anybody should be reproducing in a world where there's murder going on and people come home with blood on their hands or something. So that kind of stands out to me as like, you know, why are kids having problems? Why are they going and saying like, Mom, I think I'm a different thing than I am, or you know, I think I'm not right. You know, that might be because they're getting beaten up or like experiencing violence or tyranny in some way. You know, somebody attacked me at the box cutter just a couple days ago, and I told the police. They didn't do anything about it. But it's not the first time I've been attacked. I've been hit in the head while I was asleep. You know, people tried to kill me a lot, and that's sort of like I've gotten immune to it now because, you know, I'm either dead or I'm not. But it seems like that is the problem of this. You know, the meat is murder thing, and we can all think about our nether regions after we first make sure that we're not violating the other species on this planet, to understand that we're earthlings first before we're males or females. And then as far as beyond that, I think, you know, it's really important to keep an eye on or an ear on what we listen to. You know, be careful of the lies what you see, really is what you hear, because these ideas, you know, good and bad, the arguments for or against anything can be really dangerous just to a mind that's unstable or alone. You know, because I found myself, when I started all this, my friends kind of all pushed me away, and I couldn't really listen to anybody. But then I found my way back by, you know, like listening to a celebrity that I really thought was beautiful and interesting. You know, but then, you know, one step at a time, you have to kind of like get in order. And I think we're still out of order dealing with any of this. Oh, but I want to tell a little story. I met somebody when I was at work in a different state, and they were like telling me stuff that didn't make sense about transitioning and such. They're transitioning to male or something, but then they were describing that they were going to have surgeries at the hospital in town or something, and, you know, I had already researched this stuff, and I'm fairly certain they don't have surgeries at that thing. Like, I was a little concerned that some of the processes for transitioning are impossible, like too dangerous and or impossible. Also that there's like some sort of, you know, like if you like follow down, like straight down, there's like a bone that might impede male to female surgeries, that you'd either be having to like pierce that bone or like be killing people. I'm curious that they're like, I didn't have anybody to really follow up if something happened to me. If I went to a doctor or something who was sick or wrong, but I had to explain the entire surgery to the doctor when I went to a visit, and I asked several questions and they wouldn't really enlighten me about the procedure. But I'm worried about bone structure for some of those things, that they like might be dangerous traps or things like that. That seems a little paranoid, but, you know, it is out of order in a world that kills people and butchers. So, you know, I have a lot of fear about that. You know, and somebody did attack me with a box cutter. You know, that's scary. So
thank you so much for
talking.
talking.
I'm sorry, I'm getting
No, it's fine. Thank you so much for talking. Really interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, does anyone else want to talk? Yeah, come on.
I didn't write anything down.
Come on, just put it here.
Okay.
There you go.
I didn't write anything down, so I'm just going to, no, I cannot. I didn't write anything down, so I'm just going to go with what comes up, and I want to go back to that school that man was talking about, and our girls, if they're not captured, they are then the therapists for the boys, and they have to affirm them. And I'm an old mom. I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. They're both teenagers, and, you know, I'm angry that my daughter has to go along with this, and she's convinced. I mean, she's being indoctrinated into that this is the way things are supposed to be. And you can't argue with her. You know, not only does she have to share her bathroom, but she has to be okay with this. If she gets a male teacher dressed in a dress, she has to refer to him as she and go along with it, or she's isolated and ostracized and has no friends. Our kids are learning not to trust their instincts. They're learning to just ignore everything their body tells them. Because I'm sure their body says, this is wrong. I'm sure they feel it everywhere, just like we recognize we do. So many don't recognize it, and they just go with it. And I'm very concerned about what that means for our society and for our girls over time. I just wanted to add that. I'll probably be back.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Who else wanted to speak? There's somebody else with a hand up. Come on. Can I pin this on your pocket?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Kellie-Jay, thank you so much for coming to Los Angeles. I watch you every day. I'll give you the short version of what I want to say. I want to say it because I haven't heard anybody else say it yet. I've waited. I've spent a good 10 to 15 years studying the Holocaust, studying the rise of Nazi Germany, and there's a concept some of you may be familiar with. It's alternately called the Götterdämmerung principle or Götterdämmerung syndrome. It's a portion of Norse mythology that says that at the end of time, there's going to be a great war and all the gods will die and the world will come to an end. There's a lot of people who've written about World War II and Hitler that have said that deep down inside, the Nazis wanted to lose. Now, it's my educated opinion that the trans-cultists want to lose. They want you to defeat them. The absurdity of their aims, the impossibility of their methods, and their just inbuilt sense of wanting to be defeated is to your advantage. Obviously, they're going to do a lot of damage on the way down, just like Hitler did at his time. And this is not just another example of somebody comparing everybody to Nazism. I'm saying in this one instance, this concept tells me that these trans-cultists want to lose. They want you to win. So it might take a little while, but you will win. And I think you know the other reasons you're going to win. Thanks.
Thank you. You want to speak again?
Oh.
Thanks very much. We're going to pin it again.
Alrighty. I'll just be brief.
Okay, no worries.
Because just a couple of things I forgot to say earlier. One is a quote from Voltaire. It says, anyone who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And I think that's a lot of what we're dealing with here. Also, what is really needed is something I heard Neil Oliver say a couple of days ago, is, if I can remember, rational skepticism. That we all need to, whenever you hear something from someone who claims to be in a position of authority, a corporation, whatever it is, you have to draw on and work with rational skepticism. And that's what I think we all need right now. Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, sorry.
So I just... Oh! Somebody said, can they... Like, who am I? And I can't see or type quick enough to let them know who I am. Right, the reason we're here, and does anyone else want to speak before I wrap up? Is she ready? No? Is she okay? Do you want to introduce her?
Yes.
Well, without a name.
We're going to introduce a very good friend of mine who's going to just remain anonymous. She's actually in prison right now. So, Fran, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Let's see. Say something.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
You guys can hear me? Hi. Hi, everyone. Okay, so first I want to say thank you to everybody for their input and everything that they're doing for the movement. Thank you, Amy, for your voice and always standing up for us behind bars. It's been it's been tough feeling like I haven't had a voice for so long. So knowing that you're using your voice is very important to me. It also encourages me and gives me the courage to stand up and speak out. My story started when I was a little girl. I was sexually abused and sexually molested from age 2 to 9. I ended up becoming sex trafficked at age 11 years old. I had no voice. The people who were supposed to take care of me, who were responsible for me, for my protection, provision, love, those were the people that were molesting me and abusing me. So I had no one to tell. I would go to school. The janitor would molest me at school. I'd come home. I'd get molested by my foster parents at home. I'd go to the neighborhood to play, and the janitor from school would play in the neighborhood with us kids, and he would molest me when I was outside playing with my friends. So what I learned quickly about my body was not my own as a child. What happened as I got older, I ended up having so many sexual partners because I didn't know that I could say no. I didn't understand that I had a choice, I had a right, that I was valuable, that my body is my own. I didn't understand these things. So I would be in situations with guys and they would try to have sex with me and I would let it happen because I felt like I had already come here, I'm wearing this. I had been gaslighted so much to the point where I blamed myself. And I thought it was my fault. One night when I committed my crime, I was convicted of aggravated mayhem and torture, and that situation involved a person who had tried to sex traffic me when I was 17. He was there, and I felt like if he saw any weakness in me, he would try it again. I took on very toxic, what they call toxic masculinity. I took on those toxic traits, thinking that if I acted like a man, what I thought a man was aggressive, violent, abusive. If I did those things, then that would keep me safe. And I ended up committing the crime that I did and getting convicted. I experienced the same situation in the county jail with Amy. We were actually there together. One time I was even told to be stripped out in the hallway of the unit with several other women. And they told us to pull down our pants, bend over, spread our vagina, and cough. And one lady said no. This lady stood up to them. She was a white woman who had come from a great background, who had been a detective. And this is my first time seeing a woman say no. Yes, Stephanie. This is my first time seeing a woman say no. She said, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. And I was so astonished at that she said no. And I felt like I wish I could say no. Imagine my background, me always being treated like I was nothing or nobody, saying no. I never had the opportunity to say no, or I never took it. So I opened myself up and I coughed right there, but I was like so empowered by watching her say no. That empowered me and put ideas in my head, and that's when the wheels started turning. When I came to prison, the degrading strip searches continued and things of that nature. But what really shook me was I was sexually assaulted by a male officer. He came in my room while I was naked and told me to turn around and put my hands up. I had just came from the shower. I was screaming and crying, covering my vagina, and I was yelling, stop looking at my vagina, stop looking at my vagina. It put me back it traumatized me to a place where I felt like I was 2 years old again. And I balled up and I was just crying and crying. He stood there for 3 minutes. There was no female around, and he was balking at me. And those 3 minutes felt like an eternity. It's like time stood still and it just wouldn't stop. So after that incident, I filed complaints against him, and I was threatened and retaliated against. I was told that if I didn't drop my PREA complaint, they would make sure I had so many 115s and 128s. Those are institutional write-ups, that I would never be eligible to go home. So, and those are the things that they did to me. But I still didn't shut my mouth. I continued to shout it out. Even I began to wet the bed again. I would sleep with a leash on a door wrapped around my hand in case the door opened. It would jerk my body and I would wake up. And I would sleep with a lock because I told myself, officer or not, I am going to defend myself. This is my body. at the end of the day, I never imagined having to protect myself like that, and during incarceration, I thought I'd be safe. Then we get to a situation where they bring the trans male to female population into the female prisons. And that was very scary. Right before they came, an officer made her morning announcement, and she said, "The men are coming, you better fight to kill." At that point, I started telling all my friends, we need to make weapons. Mind you, after committing my crime, I never imagined hurting another person, acting out violently. I was shaken from what I found out I could be capable of from a place of pain and impulsivity. So we started sharpening knives. We were very scared. Many things happened when the male inmates came, the male to female inmates came that were inappropriate and also scary. I was in the shower one time, and one of the guys had a mirror on the ceiling to look into other shower stalls. And I don't want to say that I'm just uncomfortable with trans people. I don't want to sound like that, because that's not what it is. The problem is the Senate bill that gave people more rights, those trans people more rights over women. Again, women's rights come secondary to other people, and I just don't like that idea. So I in turn went and I labeled myself as trans, non-binary person, for the simple fact, first of all, it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not about to let society tell me what makes me woman and what makes me male. Sometimes I feel masculine and sometimes I feel feminine, but every day I want to be myself, and that's my right. So I feel very empowered being able to say I'm non-binary, but the sad part is I only did it for equal protection under the law, and I should have never had to do that.
Did you get any more rights? Did you get access to the same rights? I mean, do you get the same privileges that they do at all?
Okay, so legally, under the letter of the law, I am supposed to. They are not recognizing that, nor are they respecting that, because biologically, they're looking at me for biologically I'm female, and they're looking at me as I didn't come from the men's prison, so they are not giving me those same rights. I'm not able to pick my own roommate. They're threatening me with write-ups. I saw a trans male to female person come and was there 6 weeks, and their whole room was painted. I took pictures of it. Their whole room was painted, and I had been in a cell where the wall was decrepit and molding, and mushrooms were coming out and mites, and I had put in many complaints, and it was black mold, but they didn't fix the wall in my cell. They treat women like we are second-class people and second-class citizens in society, and they always have, and I don't like it. To a friend, thank you everybody for listening.
I'll be really, really brief, but I wouldn't want this day to pass without saying, save women's sports. Keep men out of women's sports. And all you warriors out there, we see you. And all your families, all your athletes, all your parents of little girls, we're here. And we're not going to give up this fight for that. Save women's sports.
Okay. So we came here today. Oh, you wanted to speak. Did you want to speak? Are you sure? Or forever hold your peace?
Hey everyone, it's hard to speak after that person who's incarcerated, and there are women in prison with men, and so I was loath to speak, but since we're all here in person, I'll share. I know there's a lot more people online streaming. I was one of those people watching, and we need to speak up in reality. I am a radical leftist. This is not a right-left issue. I am an anarchist, leftist. I bought this shirt when Donald Trump was blaming everything on the Antifa, right? So he was just blaming everything on Antifa, and I said, well, I must be an anti-fascist then, because I don't want some of these things happening. So the point is, it's not a left or right issue. We need to speak up. Someone said about the warriors speaking up and stuff like that. That's not me. yeah, there was just a woman in prison talking to all of us, and it's very shocking and it's very sad and very hard to comprehend, but together we can transform these policies. It's not transphobic to say men should not be in women's prisons. It's not transphobic to say men should not be in women's sports. It's not transphobic to say that children, minors, can have body mutilating surgery that will alter their life for the rest of their life, or that they can be on pharmaceutical drugs for the rest of their life. That's not transphobia. That's just common sense, and we need to come together, and we are doing it thanks to a lot of our leaders, our women leaders, and so I'm just honored to be here, and together come off of the live stream and come out in person, even if you have to drive a couple hours. Thank you.
I just want to say one thing to everybody, since we're in California, that our governor, Gavin Newsom, recently signed a bill into law. It's SB 107 that makes California a sanctuary state for any minor that can run away and come here and get trans. They can become a foster kid, a ward of the state, but also any parent involved in a custody dispute can bring their minor child now to California and trans their child, and the other spouse, the parent, cannot interfere because California is now a refuge state for this kind of behavior. There have been other bad bills that Newsom signed. The bill that allowed men into women's prisons is at SB 123. There's also some hanky-panky with Laura, the insurance commissioner, where mastectomies must be covered for girls who think that they're disturbed about their bodies. Insurance, it doesn't matter the age, there's no age limitation. But SB 107 is something that we really need to make some noise about, because this is going to really harm kids.
Ignorant anti-gay government.
Yes, this is not pro-gay to think that kids are born in the wrong body. There's no such thing as LGBT. Everything after LGB is straight people, and we don't need to mutilate kids to validate gay people. So anyway, I just want everybody know about SB 107, and it's California, of course, is the most progressive, regressive state, but this could happen in your state, in your country. This could happen, so keep an eye out for that.
Virginia, you may go to jail if you're a parent.
SB 107 encourages child trafficking.
Yes.
Democrats are putting you to jail in Virginia if you're a parent. Wow. That's the policy.
I wasn't planning to speak, but I feel like I should. I used to support trans rights because so many of my friends were trans. They were either non-binary, and some of them wanted medicalization, and some of them did not. But as a 15-year-old using Tumblr, all I saw over and over again was that puberty blockers were harmless, that puberty blockers were reversible. And after I actually started to look at the data, I found out that they essentially cause menopause in children. Lord knows what they cause in specifically the boys, but they basically stop puberty, and you need puberty in order to, develop a sexual drive. And what they are essentially doing is making it so that particularly lesbian, gay, and bisexual children will never grow up to be lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults, in that they will never have those relationships. You look at testosterone, which after years of use can stop women from having the ability to orgasm. You think about cutting women's breasts off and not being able to discover what sexual pleasure can even be at its fullest. And all of my friends
as teenagers were either trans or heavily supported it. Because they did not relate to women who said they were proud to be women. They just couldn't connect with that. And I ask all of you to have empathy for trans children when they think that this is the way that they will be happy when it isn't, because being gay, lesbian, and bisexual is about embracing your body as is, no exceptions. Being trans is about changing your body. Is it about getting cosmetic surgery? It is about changing your pronouns, changing your name, changing your clothes, changing who you associate with in order to adopt an identity that promises happiness, but causes an early death with some of these side effects, causes multiple rounds of surgeries and physical pain that these children shouldn't have to deal with. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for everybody that was brave enough to speak today. I know it can be quite risky, but I just think the more you speak, the more you allow other people to speak, the more you give permission for other people to use words that they feel are liberating because they're truthful. So it's really important. It's important because there will be at least one person that's walked past today that had no idea what this issue was, and now they know what this issue is, and they might talk to somebody that happens to know somebody who's just about to transition a child, or just about to go into a staff room and say nothing. And so really don't doubt how much impact you can have with just one conversation, with just one word of truth. It can really change somebody's life quite profoundly. I did an interview on trigonometry. I also put a billboard up in the UK with the dictionary definition of the word woman, and because of that, Kayla Bell, who made history in the UK, who's a detransitioner, we put a talk on at the House of Lords. We put this billboard up because we put a talk on at the House of Lords. Some doctors then got talking to the government and got changing policy right at the top of the NHS, and it also spawned both large judicial review court cases that happened in the UK that have actually changed the course of transitioning kids in the United Kingdom, which means it is no longer okay to do it. So really don't doubt the impact that you can have. Look, if you can stand and be brave even when every fibre in your body asks you not to, then I promise we will win. If you can tell somebody, no, women don't have penises, and you can do that without hesitation, then I promise we will win. If you look in the face of a child and say, there is no such thing as being born in the wrong body, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Why? Because I never lose.